Over the weekend, on my Instagram timeline, I caught a glimpse of a very interesting argument. There's a lady that I follow who runs a very successful hair and beauty business. I think for last year she did revenues of I think close to 6 million or something like that. And in one of the interactions on her posts, she claims that one of the reasons why she's been successful is that she doesn't mix is that she because she has kept family members out of the business, and it's one of her ardent, really strong personal beliefs that you do not hire you don't hire family members to be in your business, and for her that's a core tenet. I didn't get involved in that dispute on her timeline, but it's something that I want to share about because I think a lot of us have got wrong perspectives on these things because of personal reasons. For instance, my father, before he passed, he had dabbled in trying to set up a couple of businesses. One of them was being a cement distributor when we were much younger. That was when I was in primary school. And of course, he got some of my uncles involved in the business. That's some of his cousins, and things didn't quite turn out right. And he was also one of those people who, for a while at least, was disappointed in the fact that the family members that he brought into the business didn't pull their own weight and contribute to make things turn out as good as they should have. And also in my wife's family, there's also some similar sentiments as well because of such failed experiments. And so because of that, a lot of us who have either lived through it personally or who have lived through it because our fathers or our mothers tried to run businesses and they involved family members and things didn't work out, we have this idea that the solution is not to get family members involved in our businesses at all. And I think that's the wrong perspective. I've been involved with my brother in trying to front two businesses so far, and our own experiences has had its ups and downs, but the ups, well, the downs particularly, have had nothing to do with the fact that we are brothers. In fact, when we started off our first business, which was the wedding photography and videography business, the one that I currently manage right now, a family friend, a lawyer, Mr. Osai, he called us both to his office, and he said, it's nice that both of you are doing this thing, you're getting involved in business together, and it's nice that brothers should get into business, but you need to be mindful of a couple of things. You guys need to fix some ground rules for how this business is going to be run and how decisions are going to be made, because if you don't, then things get a little testy. So he gave the example. He said that in most family businesses that are under his portfolio, typically what would happen is that the older sibling will be the one who will be in charge of the day-to-day decisions and things like that. So that's one rough guideline that people live by. But Mr. Osai said that it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. You guys just need to come up with some guidelines about how a decision is going to be made and who takes responsibility for what. We took that advice on guard, and we took that advice on hand, and we've tried our best in the two endeavors that we've been doing so far to live by those rules. And when it becomes clear what standards a family member is going to be held to and what a family member is responsible for, then the fact that the person is a family member is not such a disadvantage. In fact, for my brother and I, since we're able to openly communicate with each other, it's an advantage because we can sit down and have those difficult conversations that we wouldn't have been able to have if we were not family members. And in my own experience, I know that as a fact because I've been involved in business relationships with other people who are not members of my family, and it was hard to have that conversation to say, oh boy, how far, you're not really pulling your weight, this is what we agreed, and things like that, because you're afraid, because I was afraid of I just didn't know how to handle that difficult conversation. So handling difficult conversations with my brother is a whole lot easier than if I was dealing with a total stranger. So by and large, is being involved with family members in your business a bad thing? It may not be necessarily so. It depends on the groundwork. It depends on the framework that you've laid out at the beginning of the relationship to establish who is going to be responsible for what are the yardsticks for performance, and and failure to perform and things like that. So I would advise that if you're going to be involved in a business with a family member, you can't take these things for granted. So look for whatever resources you can about hiring, managing people, things like that, and just apply those rules to family members as well. For those of you who are going to doubt the veracity of what it is that I'm saying, there's a program on CNBC. That's for those of you who have DSTV. You can check it out. And it's called Lasting Legacy. Now, the program takes a tour of different countries, and what they explore is family-owned businesses of several generations. In fact, since I've been watching the program, the youngest, the smallest gap, or should I say the youngest family-owned business there has been around for 3 generations. So you have families of 3 generations, 5 generations, and then particularly in the Asian countries, maybe like 9 generations involved family-owned businesses, and they talk about their experiences of how they keep them together. So if there are any of you who think that what I'm saying is particularly unworkable, then look for that program on CNBC. It's called Lasting Legacy, or maybe you can Google it, and you'll see how other families have been able to work around these issues in a sustainable fashion. Because like I said, you see some families there 3 generations, 5 generations, and even 9 generations. I think the one for 9 generations was an Asian company. So being involved in a business with a family member can be testy, but it's not necessarily a bad thing.